right now on 12 News at 10.
The extreme heat warning extended again. We're now under weather impact alert days through Sunday. I'm tracking the heat and rising storm chances.
I'm Tiani Jadling in the newsroom. A dust storm destroys a Valley School's shade structure for the third time. Why parents and teachers are calling it a safety concern tonight.
I'm Gabriela Becerra in Mesa. We're learning new details about what led up to an officer-involved shooting involving a man accused of assaulting his family with a shovel. Those new details coming up.
And a new forest restoration project is taking root up in the high country. How it will protect the area from wildfires and the additional danger when the flames are put out.
12 News at 10 starts now.
And we begin tonight with breaking news in the race for Arizona governor. Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for 12 News at 10. I'm Kariba Devine.
I'm Mark Curtis. Tonight we're learning that Governor Katie Hobbs is expected to pick the former Republican mayor of Mesa as her running mate. According to a report in the New York Times and 12 News sources familiar with the decision, Hobbs will select John Giles to run alongside her in the new position of lieutenant governor. The new law creating the position doesn't require that running mates be from the same party. Giles crafted a bipartisan reputation over his 10 years as Mesa mayor. He endorsed Hobbs in 2022 and spoke at her inauguration. And then in 2024, he backed Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris. Giles did not respond to our request for comment, and a Hobbs campaign spokesman declined to comment as well. This comes after the Republican nominee for governor, Andy Biggs, chose former state senator Sina Kerr as his running mate last week.
Now to a weather impact alert. Extreme heat is sticking around all week, but the Valley's big story today was the remnants of last night's dust storm. This is how things looked for most of the day throughout the Valley. Skies filled with dust that reduced the visibility in some areas.
We have team coverage tonight. Tiani Jadling talked to leaders at an East Valley school who were trying to clean up after last night's mess destroyed part of their campus.
That's right. We'll check in with her in just a few minutes, but first let's go over to meteorologist Lindsay Riley with our weather impact forecast. And Lindsay, is there any storm activity tonight?
Not anywhere near the valley. Now, we have a similar setup to what we had 24 hours ago, which did spin off all that dust. However, this evening, the storm's not as strong across Cochise and Pima County. You can still see some lightning strikes, but last night we had those very strong to severe storms, and as they died down, they put the outflow boundaries out over Pinal County, and then that kicked up the dust and brought it into Phoenix. We're not seeing that tonight, so our dust threat is going down now. We should be safe for the rest of the evening. No rain for the valley either. You can see these are our current visibilities in miles, and most of the valley is 9 to 10 miles, which is very good. So skies have improved. Air quality has also improved, although that is not perfect either. Sunrise time is at 5:44. Once again tomorrow, we're going to start off with a few more clouds early in the day. So 6, 7 a.m. skies are actually going to be mostly cloudy, but as the day wears on, we're going to warm up a little bit quicker once we see more sunshine, and that'll start to happen late morning into the early afternoon. Highs are still slightly above average tomorrow. No record highs, about 107 in Phoenix tomorrow, but we get even hotter and the humidity rises after tomorrow. I'll have more on that coming up in my full forecast. Mark?
Linz, thanks. Tonight an East Valley school is cleaning up after it was damaged after last night's dust storm. A microschool that's known as the Learning Vine says its entire shade structure was destroyed, leaving students without a key part of their campus.
12 News journalist Tiani Jadling is joining us now in studio, and she spoke with school officials and shares more about the damage. Tiani?
Great Bay, Mark, this is now the third time the school has tried to create a shaded outdoor space for students. But what was meant to improve their learning environment has turned into a safety concern. This is where nearly 70 kids attend school 4 days a week. The Learning Vine was founded by Rhiannon Haggard almost 4 years ago.
The way I explain it to parents most often is it's outsourced homeschooling.
But since moving to this property in Queen Creek, the school has been battling bouts of storm damage. Last spring, they built a pergola to shade the patio for lunch, art, and outdoor lessons.
So last school year in the spring, we built a pergola that was over the cement right here and kind of shaded the area. We were using it for art and lunch, especially when the weather is nice.
Following the damage, Haggard thought to brainstorm about how else to shade the patio in school.
A storm came and our pergola collapsed.
So they tried again. This time they installed a larger shade structure that stretched across the front of the school.
We thought if we could extend the shade from one side to the other, it would be more beneficial. It would cool the school better. And so we tried to find a way to do it. We hired a contractor to come out and to get everything situated for us. A few weeks ago, it also broke down in the storms.
Even after repairs, Monday night's dust storm destroyed it again. Now support bases have snapped from the concrete, steel poles are bent, and light fixtures are left dangling. With more storms in the forecast, staff and parents say they're worried about what could happen next.
What if this breaks down even further? We have windows here. We have school tomorrow, right? What if it whips off and flies through a window, or what if more of these fall? It's already so dangerous.
Arielle Elmore is both an art teacher and parent of 2 students. She says the outdoor patio is often used for students with learning disabilities, for daily sensory breaks, or outdoor learning. But with no playground and now no shade, she says students are losing an important part of their school day.
You know, the shade just, people don't value it until we're in 118 degrees and it's at least 10 degrees cooler, if not more, under there. Right now, school's second weekend, and we don't have it.
Moving forward, the owner says she's still figuring out the next step. Right now, the school is looking for a contractor to help rebuild the entire front patio before the damages get any worse. Live in studio, I'm Tiani Jadling, 12 News.
Tiani, thanks. 3 massive fires still raging in Spokane, Washington, have displaced 65,000 residents. We now know the man arrested for reportedly starting that fire has ties to Arizona. 37-year-old Aaron Farinacci was arrested yesterday after witnesses tell authorities they saw him acting suspiciously near where the Old Trails fire started. He was also found with matches and butane. Farinacci used to live in Mesa. According to court documents in 2010, he got into an argument with his adopted father, ultimately shooting and killing him. In 2012, Farinacci took a plea deal for manslaughter and aggravated assault and was released from prison in 2020. He's now facing first-degree arson charges for the most destructive fire in Spokane history. He's due back in court later this week. Tonight, Mesa police are identifying the man killed in a shooting with officers. Police say 59-year-old Perry Forster allegedly assaulted his family before vandalizing his neighborhood with an axe.
12 News journalist Gabriela Becerra spoke with neighbors about what happened and is live joining us with new information. Gabby.
Well, Mark Caribe, this neighborhood is truly left shaken after witnessing and trying to stop this man as he allegedly smashed up cars up and down this block and the next. I spoke with several people who live around here and they tell me they didn't know the man personally, but this wasn't the first time they heard a disturbance coming from that house. This is a glimpse of 59-year-old Perry Forster just moments before he was shot and killed by Mesa police officers. Red and blue police lights filled the neighborhood near Elliott and Signal Butte roads just after 7 o'clock Monday night. Several 911 callers reported a disturbance that began at Forster's home.
It was so fast.
One neighbor tells me they heard Forster allegedly yelling at his ex-wife before assaulting her and their children with a shovel. He then put down the shovel and picked up an axe, first smashing the car parked on his driveway with it, and then walking down the street and striking nearly every car in his path.
Just kind of ping pong, all the way down from there.
Jessica Phillips' surveillance camera captured Forster walking barefoot past her home before allegedly striking a neighbor's car out of frame.
Almost like he was using the axe as like a cane almost. You know, you just hear him hitting it, and then the closer he got to that car, he started hitting the axe even harder, and then you just hear a loud smash.
Police say Forster was still armed with the axe when officers arrived. They gave verbal commands before at least one officer fired their weapon. Forster died instantly.
We were just looking out for each other. It's just you don't think it's going to happen in your neighborhood.
People are still cleaning up the glass and assessing the damage, but neighbors tell me they're thankful more people weren't hurt.
It's a very close, tight-knit neighborhood. All of the neighbors know each other, so for something like this to happen is extremely scary.
And police tell us there were no other reported injuries to the family, neighbors, or officers last night. Gilbert police will be taking over the officer-involved shooting portion of this investigation. Live in Mesa, Gabriela Becerra, 12 News.
All right, Gabby, thank you for that. A Glendale woman is accused of child neglect after firefighters rescued 2 children from a burning home. Police say that this all happened on Friday night near 67th Avenue and Cactus Road. A 7-year-old inside the home called their father for help as the house filled with smoke. Officers say that a 2-year-old was barely conscious and strapped into a car seat. The mother was unconscious. Investigators say that her blood alcohol level was nearly 3 times the legal limit. She was arrested on child neglect charges.
This summer, we've already seen how devastating our wildfires can be up in the high country. Now, Coconino County is undergoing a major project near Snow Bowl to try to mitigate fires in the area. It's an area they say is very at high risk for devastating fires and flooding. 12 News journalist Chase Golightly got a first-hand look at the work.
Thousands of trees removed with hundreds of thousands left to go.
We're leaving the aspen, so we're cutting mostly the mixed conifer trees, looking for the ones that aren't that healthy.
It's taking place along the road leading right up to Arizona's Snow Bowl.
Tens of thousands of people come here every weekend day during fall color seasons. It's an important area to people.
An area of the Coconino National Forest, Jay Smith, Forest Restoration Director for Coconino County, says hasn't had any fire mitigation in 50 years.
This area, particularly in the Upper Rio de Flag watershed, is very at high risk for wildfire.
Not only concerned about catastrophic wildfires, but District Ranger Matt McGrath with the U.S. Forest Service says devastating flooding could come along with it.
All of this drains right down through the Rio de Flag in the middle of Flagstaff, so we'd be impacting tens of thousands of people with post-fire flooding.
Which is why the Forest Service and the county say this project needs to happen. Board of Supervisors Chair Patrice Horstman says if they don't,
the economic damage would be between $500 million and $2.8 billion. So you can see that we thought it was worth our time and money.
The plan is to mitigate 1,500 acres of land, removing an average of 300 trees per acre. Crews are facing several challenges in this project, having to bring out specialized equipment to deal with the steep terrain when removing the trees, and also having to remove boulders that are in their way.
We're up in the highest part of the peaks where we're working, some of the most complex, expensive terrain to work in.
The county has already spent close to $5 million so far, the most expensive forest mitigation project Coconino County has ever done, but say it's worth it to keep the mountain and the people who live below it safe.
Being careful to leave trees, as many trees as possible, leave the scenery as good as we can, and do the right thing for the land and for the people who enjoy it.
We're in Flagstaff. Chase Golightly, 12 News.
All right, Chase, thank you. And still to come on 12 News at 10, an Arizona-based food chain is permanently closing down. Why Salad & Go says they're closing their doors.
And I'm Cameron Cox here in Canton, Ohio, just outside of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Coming up next in sports, we kick off Larry Fitzgerald Hall of Fame week. And what do you know? Right after we land, we run into some Cardinal fans.
And at 10:14, let's give you a live look over downtown Phoenix. Stay right here. 12 News at 10 is coming right back.